Welcome back to another week of Midwest Whitetail. It is Sunday, May 30th, and me and the guys are back down at the River Bottom Farm. We're on the southern half down here, and we're in what you guys have heard me refer to as my central timber. And I've slowly been chipping away at all the projects on the list. We've had a lot of rain over the last 2 weeks. Last week I rented a skid loader, or borrowed a buddy's skid loader. Came in here and worked on this old road bed that goes through the central timber, and I repaired this crossing. We got it trimmed out, got the crossing covered, and it's a spot I've been thinking about hanging a stand in since I bought this place last year. This, as you guys heard me mention, is sort of the south end of Dak's home range. And I've hunted the north side of this central timber before and had some good hunts. We encountered the black-eyed 10 a couple times. We saw Blanco, that kind of white-horned 8 in here. And some of the movement patterns I was observing were deer moving from the ag fields back through this central timber towards the peninsula. And this old roadbed is one of the common areas they walk on, and then just on the other side of the slough. The south side of the central timber has a really deep body of water here, sort of like a pond. It's an old oxbow on the lake, and so the deer don't tend to cross it. That's what this crossing goes across. So the deer will walk down this lane and cross, or they'll come from Jared and I's piece along the river and cut through the timber right here. So my goal, as I've been looking at this, is to get a stand sort of at the crossroads here, where I can catch deer coming down the lane or deer coming along the river just cutting through the central timber. Lots of activity in this area last year, and I think we can have some good hunts. I've picked out a white oak right here, nice sized tree. We can get high up in it, and I'll be able to shoot both sides of this crossing, and we'll be able to sneak in up this waterway. There's a big tree across it over there. I can sneak in from the road, get on the backside of this timber, stay off the lane, and pop up in the stand for a morning hunt and catch the deer moving back into the peninsula. So we're gonna get started hanging the set. It's gonna be cool because you're gonna be able to see the beans too. Okay, she's ready. We're just finished wrapping up getting this set in the tree. I really like this spot. It looks really good from up there. We can see a lot of country. All the food plots back behind us to the south, and all through that central timber. I think this fall it's gonna work out really well. I have close shots of these two major trails. Just got a Cuddy Link cellular camera on this tree right here that will start capturing this deer movement and see who's moving through here. My next project for the day is to go around the property and get fresh batteries in all the cameras and update firmware. So we're gonna get going on that, and I'm gonna talk to you guys a little bit about why I run cameras this time of year and a little bit behind the strategy about where I put them and what I'm doing with them. Well, we've moved over to my south plot on the River Bottom Farm, and one of my favorite areas. You can see it's getting overtaken by canary grass, so we're gonna have to get that sprayed off. But I actually mowed it a few weeks ago, and really just to clean it out in front of this camera. And this is one of the hottest cameras on this farm. A lot of the deer bed along the river all summer long, and there's a big community scrape on this tree, actually 3 of them. And I have not moved this camera since last fall. So just to talk a little bit about my strategies this time of year, or really year round, I'm one of the guys that I never take my cameras down. I run cameras year round. My primary reason for doing that is to monitor the activity on my farm. I've had issues on multiple properties with trespassing, and so I have cameras strategically placed on major crossings, entry points and exit points where trucks or four-wheelers might be coming in and out. Also to monitor if when the co-op comes in to fertilize or spray, I know which days it happened, and it just keeps me in touch with what's going on each property. And sometimes that works out as a, really good areas for deer movement as well. Like on this property, we don't have a ton of food back in this 340 acres, but up along the road, there's lots of ag. And there's only a couple major crossings across some waterways that go out to that ag. And of course, the deer tend to take the path of least resistance. And so those cameras will be some of the busiest cameras all summer long, just catching deer in the evening going out to the ag fields and in the morning coming back. And then I mentioned something earlier, community scrapes. It's, deer use the scrapes year round, communication hubs, so to speak. And I've got multiple cameras on scrapes that they haven't moved since last fall, and all year long they're just using them. And now that the bucks are starting to get more antler on them, it's fun to see them hit those scrapes and come to these licking branches. And I get some of my better pictures of deer earlier in the year over these community scrapes. And the last place I like to have them is on the edges of my food plots. As these clover plots are greening up and getting some food in them, the deer will congregate here in the morning and the evenings. And so it's another spot where I can have cameras on either side of the food plot and just sort of monitoring what deer are where and kind of keeping an eye on their growth. You guys have heard me talk about this Cuddy Link, Cuddy Cell system that Cuddy Back has put out over the last few years and continues to optimize. And it's really been a game changer for me. Super adjustable settings. You can do video, you can do picture, you can have pictures taken, every second versus out to multiple minutes. You can do burst, etc. And then they have these battery backpacks. This holds 12 D batteries in it, and the camera has 4. These batteries are from last October, and it's May, and it's still just taking pictures. And I have it on every 5 seconds. The only time I don't put it on that quickly is if I'm putting it over feed. I'll put it every few minutes or so, just because I don't want, when the deer come to the feeders, if I do protein feed on some of my farms, I have cameras there, and you don't want, it'll overload the cellular system. But another nice part of the Cuddy Link, Cuddy Cell system is every single morning I get a text message with a report on each of my farms on my Cuddy Cell system. It tells me each camera, how much battery life is left, how much SD card space is left, how many pictures are on it, if there's any of them stuck in a queue, all that. Every day I get an update from it, so I always know what's going on. And if there's a camera that's malfunctioning or there's some grass that's growing up in front of it, like I'm experiencing a lot of right now, I can actually go into the Cuddy Back website and I can change the settings. I can turn that camera off, or I can lengthen the interval of the pictures. So very functional, makes it easy to access and manage your cameras remotely. And that saves battery and saves a lot of headache later when you're looking at pictures. We're gonna keep moving. I've got a few more cameras to get fresh batteries in and get the firmware updated, and then we're gonna get to our last project of the day. This camera has been set on a river crossing since I bought this property, just a shallow spot across the river, and it works well this time of year because the deer like to come down right here and drink. So I keep this camera in this spot. There's a scrape on this tree, and then it's a great drinking spot. Here, I don't know where they go. Well, this is one of the bad things about letting your food plots get too grown up in weeds. I came about 6 inches or a foot from this turkey nest. She held on to the last minute. My tire just about hit her and she flew off. Got 11 turkey eggs right here. Pretty cool to see that. I've just got a couple more passes on this end of the field. We're gonna get out of here and let her come back to the nest and take care of her nest. There's a lot of good standing sorghum stalks and corn stalks right here, so I think the vegetation will hold up nice, and we'll mark it and plant around it and leave it alone, so hopefully she can have a successful hatch here. Well, I got done with getting the cameras all situated, and that's a process that's going to evolve over the next couple of months. You know, one thing I definitely need to get back out here and do is get the battery backpacks on all the cameras. Right now I just have it on a portion of them. And then later in the summer, I usually run a couple rounds of corn in front of them to get a good survey once the bucks are done growing their antlers. So late July, early August is usually when I'll start doing a couple surveys well before season. And then September, you know, is when we transition to mock scrape. So you guys can follow along, and that'll unfold here over the summer. The last project we got done today was spraying. You know, it never fails. Every year we have some issues down here on the River Bottom Farm trying to get our big food plots in. And between Jared and I's piece and my piece, we have about 24 acres that we're working on getting in of beans this year. Last year we tried corn. It usually ends up in sorghum or some mix of brassicas and sorghum. With all the rain, the guy we had lined up to do it is busy with his ag fields and replanting some areas. So I got my rig down here. We trailered down a couple hundred gallons of water, and we got all 24 acres sprayed. So hopefully here the next few weeks we get our food plots in, and looking to see how all that unfolds. For those of you that are interested in learning a little bit more about how I approach my spraying, what chemicals I use, the concentrations, the rate of application, etc., we're gonna produce a blog with a little more detail in it on all the work we did today with the spraying. So that should be up hopefully the next few days, and you guys can check that out on the daily channel. As always, we appreciate you guys joining us, and we'll see you back next week.